All right, so welcome back to Boggy Creek Life, and this is another installment of the Alien Queen build. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so because ultimately my goal is to probably show this at a show and then hopefully sell it, I'm thinking of transportation necessities when it comes to attaching these pieces. So all these lungs and spines and stuff we have over here, and then we've got the big back spines and the little arms. I'm not worried about permanently attaching them. I mean, I'm going to permanently, I'm not worried about that because as you can see for her crown there, I already have to take that in consideration because that doesn't come apart. And the spines will be coming out kind of in line a little bit with the head. So it's in the same general direction. The arms will be coming out. So that leaves it, kind of a oblong flat shape. I can wrap that, with bubble wrap. Maybe set it like that so things and everything should be fine. It's the arms out this way that are my concern. And as I showed you before, this one, it pops in and holds. So I'm not concerned about that one at all. See, it locks in nicely. So it's this one over here. This one does not lock in. And I don't want to glue it permanently. Even though it does kind of line up in that line, I worry about the fragileness of these fingers and stuff like that. So I'd like to have that removable. So here's my thought process. So I've got these little two really strong magnets. I think I got them from Home Depot or something. And as you can see, pretty much is the same circumference as the key there. I mean, it fits on there nicely. So what I'm thinking is because I can tell from the hole in the bottom that this is very, very thin. So not going to drill into this, but get it to set straight. I don't have a metal rod or anything that's flat on the end to stick it to so they stay around like that. The only thing I have is more magnets. But if I can stick it flat down in there and glue that one, the one tiny one, and then, I mean, that's the wrong side, but I'm just showing you as an example. And then measure back one magnet width. Because I know that this, from experience, is usually a little thicker. Or at least it would be easier to build another flat piece or whatever onto the end of this. And then glue one to that to compensate. Let's see. I would actually have to do it two widths back. Compensate for one magnet, compensate for the other magnet. So I'd have to lop off two widths of that and go from there and see how it happens. All right, so let me mark this. Mark this to the best of my abilities here. Really hard to see. See, I made a pencil mark there. Now I kind of have to guesstimate because you see, like, this is flat, but the sides are not. So I got to try to keep it flat. So I'm going to find something to cut this with, probably a cutoff wheel for the Dremel, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm definitely not going to be able to do it from one side because I have the backing on there because these things are kind of flimsy. I should probably be doing this outside, but it's really rainy here. So here we go. Hopefully I don't make too much of a mess. Trying to keep my line as straight as possible. I want this as flush as possible. You can see it's still got a little bit of a nub there. Alrighty, not super terrible. I got extremely lucky. The key was a solid piece, so we'll still have something nice to glue it to there. Our magnet should be flat up against that. Now I can tell on this part that my magnet is not totally sitting at the bottom on the flat piece, because I can roll it around a little bit like that, you see? So I'm going to change tips, and I'm going to go in here and kind of grind the walls out, not depth, but just the walls out a little bit around it. So this will be able to go further down in there and sit flush against the bottom of the key hole there. Now, a little side note, something I'm praying on, the only thing I know for sure is I hope when that piece was on there that this was close to the bottom of that keyhole. Because if not, it's going to throw my measurement all the way off. I should have actually somehow tried to measure it, but if it don't work out, it don't work out. All right, so let's do a little test fit there. See what we got, if it's going down in there. Much better. Not quite where I want it though yet. Let's check it again. Right there. You see, with some pressure, pretty much, it's got a little bit to it. Let me try one last thing. Try my flat tip there, because what I'm thinking is this is rounded, and I'm not trying to dig into the bottom, so I'm not able to quite get right in the corner there where the bottom meets. Maybe I can sit this flush and then hit the sides with that. Let's see what that got. Now, while I was doing that, I wasn't putting any pressure downward. Just on the sides very lightly, letting the tool do the work, as they say. Much better. Much better. You can see right there, we got very little jiggle, and that's just because it ain't really glued in there. All right, now it's time to figure out what we're going to glue this with. These are kind of slick. Actually, they're very slick. What I usually do is I mar up the finish, make it rough on the side that's going to be glued. That way it gives it something to help lock into. And it also helps you keep track of which side of your polarity is which. You don't want to, I mean, I'm no science guy, but you don't want to go trying to glue your magnets in when they're pushing each other apart. You know what I mean? It's kind of close to the fingertip, so be careful if you attempt something like this at home. Just using the edge, digging some lines in it. Now, I got to find something that will stick to the other side to stick it down in there with. I will be back. Okay, so I got this jeweler's pick here. If you ain't got one, you should probably get one. If I can find it on the YouTube thing, I'll put a link in the description. But they've just basically got sticky tab ends. You keep it covered up when you're not using it. This is not what I was looking for. I had a metal rod that was flush on the end that I wanted to use, but this will work. You just stick it down on there and push, and it holds it, at least for a good second or so. So we're going to do an experiment here. Is because if I was just putting the regular key in there, full size, 2-part epoxy would be great. You just slather it on, drop some in there, good to go. But seeing as how I need a more controlled pour, I'm going to try some super glue in there first, just so we can stick our magnet down in there, hit it with some accelerator, get it stuck. And then I'm going to try, because this is a more controlled thing, this is the UV resin that I have. So I can try to go in there and just get it around the corners. I don't really want to cover up the magnet. You see what I'm saying? I put some in, hit it with the light, put some in, hit it with the light. That's what we're going to try to do. So first, make sure to get all our dust out of there. Best you can. And we're going to take some of our handy dandy super glue over here. This is the part where if you got a buddy with you, it's always helpful. But, you know, how many of us model by ourselves? Everybody just about. If my girlfriend was here, I'd have her here spraying this so I could hold on to both of these at the same time. So we're going to go ahead, get our super glue down in there. Make sure we got the right side of our magnet. We want to pick it up by the unmarred side. And it's really hard for me to see because of the certain way you got to have the light for the camera. Is not exactly the best way to have the light so you can actually see. I think it's getting down in there. Go ahead and pick up our piece. Hold it down in there for a second. Maybe I can get lucky. I can't tell if it's actually glued. I can't tell if there's glue in there. You can either take a blow dryer, dry that stuff out, take a paper towel, blot it in there, take a Q-tip, try to soak some of it up. Appears to be good and stuck in there, but if you use the method that I use, you want to make sure that this is all evaporated. It does evaporate your glue accelerator before you go putting your UV resin in there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this with a hair dryer real quick and make sure all that's evaporated. Okay, so a quick rundown. I mean, if you want to and you have a skinnier, I used to have some tubes, skinny tubes that came off of this, but I ran out of them. If you want, I mean, you can go down in there with your super glue. You know, there's plenty, since I grinded it, there's plenty of places to bite. I just think that this UV resin, if you guys have been doing 3D prints, you already know, is probably a little stronger, but you got to make sure it's got a place to bite too. Now, this stuff here is UV resin, just cheap stuff you can get off of Amazon. These little bottles are cheap. You can get them on Amazon. I put the black tape around it, even though no sunlight gets in here, just in case. And this is pretty runny when it's fresh. I just put a little bit of fresh in there, even though I had some old. It doesn't seem to get hard from getting old, at least not yet, but it does thicken. And in some cases, for what you're trying to use it for, that can be a good thing. But for today's purposes, we want it to be a little runny getting down in there just to help pass through this tube faster. And yeah, so if you haven't tried it yet, it's a pretty good thing. You can use it for filling gaps and stuff on 3D prints, stuff like that. So let's go ahead. It's just a little harder to control when it's fresh because it's more fluid. I'm going to try to put this down in there and see without putting my ugly mug in the way. And there's no two holes for it to breathe, so sometimes you got to squeeze it a few times to get it to come out. All right, it looks like we got some down in there. Yeah, hit it with our light. This light, you can buy UV flashlights, UV lights. I got a bigger one. This little keychain thing, I got some, used to get some glow-in-the-dark powders from a company called Technoglow. They're still around, and they just, whenever you buy some powder that you can add to your paint, they automatically send you one of these little keychains, and it comes in handy for tiny stuff like this. Light in there. And I mean, the good thing about this stuff is if we fill it up too high and the magnets don't touch, we can always sand a little bit of this back with our Dremel tool there. But I'm not trying to create extra work for myself. I think you got to hold this stuff to let it dry. You don't want it to be super thick either, or like 10 seconds, something like that on each spot. All right, so we've got that set in there. You can see our resin, that little bit of matte looking colored stuff in there. So we're going to go over here, get our other magnet, and get our super glue ready again. We're going to kind of do the same process, put just a dab on there to hold it, and then go around it with the UV resin. Hit the hair dryer. Got that all nice and dry. Get our magic sunshine juice here. I'm just going to go around the base of it and the edge of the magnet there. I don't want it to flow over. I want to make sure we get this all the way around. Okay, you're right here with me. Time to see what we got. Oh. Doesn't appear that that magnet is strong enough, or it's not connecting. Okay, so I can tell that my problem is right now is I don't think it's the magnets not strong enough. I'm not getting them to touch on the inside. So this, like I said earlier, probably didn't go down all the way and touch the bottom of the key. So it screwed my measurement up. So let me think how I'm going to fix this. All right, so I came up with a theory. I'm going to take a little blue piece of ticky tack there, blue ticky tack. Stick it on the end of this. Stick it in there, see how much it smashes it down, and that should be about the amount of our gap. Because I find it really hard to believe. I mean, if you had these magnets in your hand, that these two magnets wouldn't be strong enough to hold this arm, even though it's solid, if they were touching. I mean, it draws to it. So you see, we were missing it by almost a 1/4 inch there. You see that? That's a pretty big gap, and that's why she ain't holding. Now, what are we going to do next? Well, we're not going to dig that one out of the hole. So let me go ahead and see if I can get this one off of here. Once again, don't lay yourself open. All right, so the combination of the super glue and the UV resin there was pretty strong. I had to, take my X-Acto knife. Unfortunately, I didn't cut any fingers off. Once I was able to break through that, it did kind of peel off. That's the UV resin with some resistance. And then it was, I really had to pry the super glue to get the magnet off of the piece. So what we're going to try to do now is we got our guide there for thickness. We're going to take in and try to build this up with the resin and fill in the space that we need, and then put the magnet back on top of it. But I do know you don't want to put it on too thick because it won't dry in the middle. That means you have to build it up in layers a little bit. So you can see we don't have it thick enough yet, but you don't want to make it any thicker from Jump Street. For one thing, I don't even know if you can because it'll probably flow. And you won't be able to get it dry in the middle. I got this little fingernail file. You can see the grooves in it right there. All I want to do is just rough that up some. Probably do it with a piece of sandpaper, so that the next layer of resin has something to bite to. Plus, I want to try to get it flat. Probably at the end, I will take sandpaper and flatten it out. So I'll go ahead and go through this whole process, and then we'll be back. Okay, so here's our current dilemma. I built it back up, got it on there. I ended up sticking a magnet in there and going back and forth and grinding this down until it pretty much didn't move. Then it was hell trying to get that magnet back out, but I did it. And it sticks. You see it sticks. It's strong enough to hold it. But if you wiggle it, it'll still fall off. Well, that's because if you see these ribs down in here, the way they're shaped, it's not letting it seat all the way. If I remember correctly, in one of the other videos, we had a problem with that too, because I'd already shaved some of this. I tried shaving it a little more, and you see I had actually made a little hole, so I don't want to go any deeper than that. So what I'm going to do, so it doesn't wiggle, I mean, I guess I could leave it go. If you sell it, you're not supposed to pick it up and play with it anyway. But I'd hate for somebody to, but I mean, I don't know. I've never had a magnetic, like, sideshow piece. I don't know how strong the pieces are expected to be. I mean, that seems fine to me, but still what I'm going to do to suit my own purpose is I'm going to take some Aves and roll it up in there inside the socket on these edges. Sorry, I was off camera. On these edges, as you can see. And I'm going to slather some Vicks on this so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to stick it in there so it's shaped. And it'll stop it from wiggling when you jiggle it. And hopefully that'll solve most of our problem. Right there. I mean, is it good enough right now? If I was going to keep it myself, sure. And I'll probably end up keeping it myself anyways because I've only ever sold one thing, and that was a bust. But, you know, I just get kind of retentive, we shall say, with these things. All right, we take a part A, part B. Just going to take a pinch. Not much. That always end up with extra. This is all dusty. That look about right. Make sure you knead these up real well, like I always say. But if you're new and you don't know, one consistent color. Pull it out on this because my mat has way too much dust on it. I mean, she's going to be all black anyway, so you're going to paint this, or I'm going to paint this, should I say. So it shouldn't really be seen at all. Tuck a little bit of Aves there. Cover that with Vicks so it don't stick. So it fills in that gap a little bit. I think that'll be good to go. That's good enough for me. I mean, it's not falling off. You shouldn't be shaking your display all crazy anyway, so. All right, that was a little bit of a ride. Let you get you guys out of here. All right, thank you for coming along with me on that ride, and that was definitely a ride. Like I said, I've been doing this about 5-6 years now, so I'm sure there's probably other ways that you could like test a little better to reduce your work and things like that happening. But it's not that I don't think of them. I mean, you know, you saw what I thought of. It's just I'm kind of like the Joker. I don't have plans and schemes. That's for them. I just do, you know. But I mean, it usually pans out in the end. So if you have hung around, hey, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button because I'm reckoning you're my kind of people. And by the way, if the video has a little hype symbol underneath it, hey, why don't you go ahead and spend some of them YouTube points that they give you for that on there? I would definitely appreciate that. What it does is exactly what it says. It hypes the video, helps push it out in front of more people, tells YouTube, hey, get this out there, let this be seen, and that helps the channel immensely. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you as always. If you're looking for other ways to help support the channel, I do have a Patreon at www.patreon.com/Boggy Creek Life, and what goes on there for $3 a month is we get around on Zoom once a month, usually last Saturday for an hour or so, however long everybody feels like it, and build and just talk and whatever. It's a good time had by all. If Zoom ain't your thing, hey, I can dig it. And you still want to help support the channel, there's also membership tiers unlocked. I'll leave a link down there, and if you'd like to do that, you can go ahead and see what you get. You get some custom emojis, members only polls, and then the top tier, the Skunk Ape, which is only $4. The Bog Dweller is only $3. Gets early access to videos and gets a shout out in the next video made after you sign up. And if you don't want to have any kind of constant contribution like that, that's fine too. There's also Super Thanks. Super Thanks is just like buying me a cup of coffee and saying, hey, thanks for that cool video. All that being said, I'll have all her arms and everything, all the other little tiny ones and stuff glued on, and the spines on her back ready to go when we make the next video already. Because you guys don't need to watch that. That's the glue. Easy, you know. I got to run down my checklist of videos to see what's coming up next. I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. But until we do see each other again, be good to each other. Model on. Sit, Rocco, sit. Good dog. Roof.